Hey, yo, what up? This is David Wood. I've got a special guest here today. I have not really been popping on interviews. I've been on this reading kick lately that I'll probably continue. I've been reading like about a book or two a day. This is going to be a great pleasure today. We were actually talking about some stuff in the background here, and then we just, decided to go live. And so we're probably going to continue some of that, conversation. We were talking about, the banks and the collapses that are coming to society just some of the stuff that is going on that I think that's valuable, obviously, to talk about. But I also want to bring Will out to talk about some of the stuff that he's doing that is unique, where he is generating, a lot of income in the insurance niche, selling insurance in a well-known network marketing company. He is making a vast majority of his money from clients, getting clients from an actual product. And so the predominant work that he's actually done has been in client work, referrals, getting sales, and things like this. And so, Will, here's what we're going to do to start. Okay. People don't know anything about you because you're one of these guys where, all your money is basically made locally offline, from talking to you. So people that watch this from me, they're not really going to know who you are. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So Will Lane, my background is all financial services. Started my career off with a company called the Vanguard Group for 5 years, where I managed high net worth portfolios. Had about 400 households. Each household was worth $1 million or more. So I did that. That gave me a good grounding and footing in the investment world. And I did that up until about 9/11. After 9/11 happened, the market kind of tanked, started trading sideways, and it got kind of boring. I was just finishing up my MBA around that time. So I was, learning about this whole mansion of finance, and I was stuck in this one little world called investment. So around that time, Prime had dropped to 4.25%, which was like, it was like free money. Obviously, since then, it's dropped a lot lower to zero. But at that point, it was kind of like the party had started. That's when the whole subprime lending fiasco started. So I went into banking, went on the personal side initially, helping people with investments, home equity loans, things like that. Then eventually jumped over to the wholesale side, business banking, working with businesses, 2 to 25 million in annual revenue, which by banking definition would be considered a small business. Did that for about 14 years. Was making good money. Had the ideal corporate job, corporate card, all that kind of stuff. And I got to a point where I would show up to these meetings every Monday morning, and I look around the table, and everybody was just as miserable as I was. And I said, you know what? I don't want to get stuck here. So I decided to take the leap, joined a startup, took about a 60% pay cut, which was huge at the time. Took about a 60% pay cut because there was a group of guys. All they did was start these small tech companies and then sell them for like lots of money. And I said, that sounds pretty interesting. I don't know how to do it. And I remember just reading through all the personal development, always work for growth and opportunity. Don't be focused on the money. I said, this is a great opportunity to grow and learn a little bit because I don't know how to do this kind of stuff. Well, that was great until it wasn't. 7 months later, they decided to exit the company. I didn't have any equity. I had just came in, as a job to be a fly on the wall. And there I was, stuck with, either going back to my comfortable banking job, saying I failed, or I could stay out in the wilderness and try to figure out how to, you know, catch my own food and cut it and, eat it and, be a savage. So went into the insurance business, and that was in 2017, and I've been here ever since. And fortunately, things have worked out.
Yeah, so you're doing insurance now. What kind of insurance are you doing?
I do primarily like mortgage protection and retirement solutions. So mortgage protection is basically term life insurance with living benefit riders, which if someone gets sick or disabled, something like that, they can still have the mortgage continue to be paid, even though they may not be able to work. Obviously, in the case if they die, it would be paid off. And then IULs as well as annuities as well, which are really hot right now because a lot of people are really nervous about what's going on with the economy and the stock market, and some stuff we were talking about before we jumped on live. But yeah, that's primarily the three avenues I operate in.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're doing like annuities, you're doing mortgage insurance, which is some sort of like term life insurance, and I missed something, I
And
think.
then IULs, index
I
uni- index universal life, which is kind of
right.
like
Okay.
you could call it kind of like a hybrid between term life and whole life. It builds cash value. What's very popular right now is the whole um, uh, you know um, I want to say universal banking, infinite banking model. Excuse me, where you can kind of put money, fund your life insurance policy, but if you need to, take the money out to buy an investment or some type of asset, borrow the money from yourself. So that's really popular right now.
Right. And you do that locally, or do you do that all over the United States?
So I'm local right now. I'm in the Northeast, mainly South Jersey, Northern Delaware area. Right now, and I am working to go on more of a virtual platform. In this business, I'm kind of considered to be a dinosaur because I still meet with people face to face. A lot of the industry is going virtual, just doing it wherever you're at. And so I'm working to do that right now. It's kind of like, I'm doing well doing it this way. So to kind of give that comfort up and of knowing what to expect in exchange for, maybe not being comfortable for a little bit has been a little bit challenging, but I'm in the process of transitioning now.
Yeah, I understand it. I mean, people don't talk about this, I don't think, but when you're doing business in person, it is funner.
Absolutely. You get to exchange energy, it's just different.
It's way more fun. I mean, it's way more fun to do like a live event with real people than it is to do like a webinar, for example. Way more. Yeah. So you're doing right now, local business, meeting with people one on one, and when I talked to you, it was really interesting because, of course, I work with network marketers a lot of the time. A lot of my clients are network marketers, and most network marketers, they earn almost all of their income from their downline team. And when I talked to you, you weren't recruiting at all originally. You were like, nah, I'm not recruiting. I'm doing fine doing it this way. And you were just literally selling. So most of the business you generate then is just meeting with clients like one-on-one. Can you describe the sales process that you have and how you do that?
Yeah, so my sales process starting from the beginning, I drop mailers. So there's data that's available as public information to people that have refinanced or bought a home recently. Usually when people make, big decisions like that, take on a lot of debt, you kind of get you to think about your finances and life differently, right? Because if you check out or you're
Right.
unable to service the debt, then you could put yourself and your family in a really tough situation. So I send out mailers in the local area, South Jersey, Northern Delaware, primarily, people who have just done that and introduced the idea of having a conversation about mortgage protection insurance. And they call in, they respond. I call them, set up an appointment. We sit down and talk. And then we pretty much have an organic conversation around, if it makes sense for them, if it is a fit. I don't follow the traditional sales model, if you will. In this business, you kind of taught to be assumptive, assumptive closes, assume everything. I think people have kind of outgrown that. They've kind of, we've all gotten busy, or not busy, but more intelligent over the years. And we all have Google and we've been through every pitch there is. So my model was more like asking questions and getting them to sell themselves.
Right. So you, rather than doing like a pitch and strong arm and then overcoming the objections forcefully, you do, because I've been trained by both these sides here. You do more like consultative type selling.
Exactly. I lay out a context in which they should look at the conversation. Right now, we're on this side of the ball. This side of the ball is you're young, you're healthy, you're making money. Hopefully, you'll make more money. And you're trying to get to the other end, which is comfort, retirement, whatever that looks like for you. Live off of assets, fixed income, Social Security, is maybe a little extra added in. And then, what prevents us from getting from this side to the other side is usually the stuff that happens in life, right? Bout with cancer, a heart attack, stroke, early death, which means that we got to go back to the other side because, all the money that we've accumulated up to that point when that event happens, we wind up giving it all back because you got to use it to kind of stay afloat and maintain the bills. So that's kind of the approach that I take. And I walk them through a series of questions that allows them to discover for themselves whether or not it makes sense. And I guide when I need to, but for the most part, I'm just walking along with them on a journey of self exploration.
All right. So your process then, just going back simply, okay, you send out mailers to new homeowners. Like
Mhm.
you send a direct mail piece. They buy a home. They get a direct mail piece from you. That direct mail piece has some sort of pitch. Then there's a phone number they call. They call the number for information. Then you call them back, and rather than doing like an internet appointment, like what most people do, you just drive to their house and sit down with them.
Correct.
And you find that works a lot better than doing, stuff virtually, or do you
Absolutely.
enjoy it? Yeah, like
Because
how
in
much better
person,
does it work?
say it again.
How much better does that work?
Man, I'd say 50% better. Because here's the thing: if you do anything long enough, you're going to get better at it. It'll tell you all its secrets if you spend enough time with it. But in person is a lot more forgiving, right? Because especially nowadays, people are so suspicious. Is this a scam? Are you legitimate? How do I know who you are? When you're there in person, there's a lot of unspoken communication that's taking place, and people can kind of get a feel, more of a feel for who you are versus just looking at you on the screen or in a telephone conversation. So I'd say it's 50% more effective.
So it's more effective, obviously, to sell in person than it is virtually. So you prefer this in person interaction. Now, when I had talked to you the first time, you were doing so well and making so much money selling insurance that you weren't even bothering to recruit at the time. And has that changed at all? Have you taken on more of a team builder approach? And can you talk about like what your decision making process is behind that?
Yeah. So here's the thing: when you sell insurance and like it's only dependent on you, you're self-employed, right? You're not really running a business because your income, no matter how good it may be, is dependent on you being able to produce that income. The
Right.
problem with that is there's a shelf life on that, right? There's a shelf life because you can't do it. I can't run like I run forever. And so I had conversations with you, and you provided me some coaching on how to effectively build my team. I did start to build. I do have a couple agents. I really haven't gone full out on it. Like I was telling you, I'm in a leadership program right now. I felt like I needed some more training around what it looks like to build a high performing sales organization. Because when I do it, I really want to do it. I don't want
Right.
to, a lot of people build teams and then they stagnate and they get stuck at a certain level and they're trying to figure out what's the breakthrough. When I really take it on, like really take it on, I just want to go as fast as I want to go, whenever I, decide to go.
Right. You just want to go and just boom, build up to the top. So
Exactly.
so so you're in the middle of that training right now, and talk to me just about what you've learned about selling. We were talking a little bit about consultative selling. That you take this approach. Like, explain to me the consultative selling approach in a little bit more detail. Like, walk me through the steps of how to do that.
Well, the steps. So I and I my approach is very different. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm putting in the background what I call a background of relatedness, which what that would look like is before I would even pick up the phone to call you to schedule an appointment, I'm looking at your name on a piece of paper. I'm saying Dave Wood, right?
Yeah.
Dave's probably in his late 30s. He's got good income, probably got a kid, wife, maybe not. Same fears, same aspirations that I have. And that's the energy that I'm calling Dave on. So I'm not calling a lead. I'm calling Dave. I'm connecting to Dave as a human being first.
Right.
People can hear that when they pick up the phone, right? And there's something different about you. It's an assumption that we already know each other. We just haven't met yet. And I think a lot of salespeople go wrong because they assume this sense of separation between them and the client can feel it. As a result, it feels weird, and I'm not really sure about you, and you don't sound like anybody that, you sound like the last telemarketer I just hung up on,
Right.
right? So I'm always
The
putting out.
energy that they have is more forced, and you're more connected. You're more like you're thinking about them like it's a human being that you're going to connect to that has the same problems as you.
Absolutely. And that's my same approach in person. Same approach in person is, when I walk up to the door, I'm already assuming, this is going to be a warm, friendly interaction, and I'm just there to listen. My approach is mainly first things out of my mouth is who I am for them, right? Maybe that might be a little bit of my background to give me some credibility and that I know what I'm talking about. But the rest of that is, look, it doesn't matter to me whether you guys decide to do this or not. The only thing I ask is for permission to be honest with you and to ask you some questions that help guide you through the process. But ultimately, this is going to be your decision. And from there, that's kind of how I'm going through the conversation, creating a context of, like we did earlier, why we're having the conversation, why the conversation is important, and then I'm just walking down the road with them.
Right. Okay. So you're disarming in the approach. You have an approach where you're taking pressure off. You say, "Hey, look, I'm here to just kind of open the situation, to talk about the situation that you're in and your needs and wants, and then it's in your ballpark." So first thing you turn it over to them in a very friendly manner, and you do have a very calming energy about you. So I can see why this would work well with you. And then what do you do from there? Like, talk to me about your process. Like, what's next?
So first thing we do is I try to identify like what had them respond to the mailer because there's like a 1% response rate, right? So every 1,000 mailers I send out, I'll get 10 people that actually respond. So that means 99% of the people that get the mailer never respond to it. So the great thing I like about direct mail is the people that responded to it meant to respond to it. Right? You saw this in the mail, you pushed aside all the other junk mail, you looked at this thing, you filled it out, and then you took the time to mail it back in. So there's a need there, right?
Right.
So I try to figure out what was that need? What had you fill out the form? And again, just part of not knowing if they could trust you or not is kind of like, well, I didn't know what it was. They'll tell you anything. And what they're really trying to figure out is who you really are, right? Tell me I'm not sold yet. Tell me a little bit. But if they're sold, if they feel good about the interaction, they'll tell you, well, you know what? My wife doesn't work and I make all the money. I just want to make sure if I check out that, her and the kids are going to be good. Okay, cool. So now as I'm talking, I'm only listening from that place, his concern, right? Nothing about how great I think the product is, how, everything else is out the window. I'm only trying to help Dave protect his wife and his kids if he checks out. So then my question is around, um, your age, your smoker, non-smoker, um, how many kids do you guys have? If I'm not, if I don't see any kids right away, I don't do a lot of that rapport building stuff in the beginning. I kind of create that as we go through the conversation.
So
Next,
you don't try to go through like a section where you're only building rapport. You
no,
get kind of right into business.
no.
You're asking needs-based conversations, and then as you're going through this, you're building rapport.
Right. I think again, we talked about how smart people have gotten. That's kind of a red flag, right? Why are you being so nice and you're so interested? Nah, I don't trust you. You sound like a con artist or a salesperson. I'm
Right.
a
So if you
consultant.
put if you put too much energy into creating rapport only, then the person gets like kind of a front where they're like, "You're up to something." It's basically
Right.
what you're. Yeah. Okay. All right. I cut
Right.
you
Well,
off.
here's the
Go
thing.
on and maybe describe that a little bit. Yeah.
Here- Here's the thing. How suspicious would you be of your doctor if he talked to you for 10 minutes about you and your, who you were as a person and spent on rapport building, right? You just want the diagnosis. You want him to look you over so you can get out of there, and you want him to be busy because if he wasn't busy, he probably wouldn't be a good doctor, right? So that
Right.
that's the mindset that I'm coming from. Like I'm a great person, right? And I'll establish credibility through the questions I asked you, but I'm busy too at the same time, right? This
Yeah.
is
Right.
something that's important. So
Right.
and,
So
and
you make the rapport more naturally part of the conversation as you're progressing through the business, rather than saying, "I'm only going to build rapport and then I'm going to get to business."
absolutely, absolutely, and I think that is on an unconscious level, you're establishing leadership, in the interaction, right?
I don't
Because
know.
if you do too much rapport building, now you kind of put yourself. I feel like you put yourself in a position where now you're wanting to be accepted and liked. Like that's the furthest place I want to be from. Like I'm the professional, I'm the expert, and this is how we do it.
Right. So you don't need to be respected and liked. You're there to do business if it's a fit.
That's correct.
And if they like you, cool.
If they like me, cool. There's plenty of clients that don't like me, but they respect me and they appreciate me for being the stand that I am for the family when I need to be. Because I also ask for permission to be honest. Right? Doesn't matter to me what you do, but Dave, I do want your permission to be honest with you today. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
There you go.
Yeah, right. So you ask them for their permission to be honest, and so that way, if you see something where they're being flaky or they're getting off subject or they've got a real weakness in their financial plan, you can just point it out directly.
Right. Well, you gotta keep in mind this is a real sensitive conversation, right? Not only are you talking about really intimate details of their financial situation. You're getting socials, bank account. You're getting the whole thing. They're giving you the keys to the castle. I just lost my train of thought. What was that?
Well, yeah, we're talking about this authority, that you're creating with people, where you're asking for permission to be honest.
Right. So I know where I was going. So they're giving you the keys to the castle, right?
Yeah.
With that being said, if they're giving you the keys to the castle, there's going to be something at some point, more than likely, that's going to say, stop. We're going too far. Right? That animal brain. What is it? What's the part of I'm sure you know. What's the name of the brain?
I actually don't know the part of the I always call it the lizard brain, but it's
the
not,
lizard brain,
not
right?
really the name of it. I think that's the
amygdala.
Amygdala, yeah.
The amygdala lights up and says, hold on a second, there's danger here. Why is there danger? Because they don't know, right? The fear of the unknown. So I'm about to take on this obligation. I'm about to give this person I just met all of my most intimate personal details. I'm about to sign paperwork that is going to obligate me to something that costs money. I really don't know that much about the subject other than what he shared. At some point, there's going to be something that lights up that says stop, for any reason, right? Other than it's just unknown. So at that point, that's why I'm asking permission to be honest with you, right? Because, hey, Dave, I know this is, it's a new conversation for you. You're probably not that savvy about insurance. But can I be honest with you? It's pretty simple, right? If something happens, if any of these things happen, the insurance company is going to send you and your wife a check. That's not overcomplicated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so other than you not being comfortable with this particular insurance company or maybe not being that well versed in insurance, what else might be getting in the way?
Right.
All right. So you tell me, and I'll say, Dave, you want me to be honest?
Yeah.
This is just you procrastinating. You do it all the time. It shows up everywhere in your life. It isn't just with this. Take 10 seconds to think about it. There's probably 10 things that you haven't done that you've been meaning to do. Am I right, Dave?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, this shows up everywhere, man. This is easy, man. The insurance company gives you a check if any of these things happen. Why don't you grab your driver's license and we'll go ahead and get you started. Like, so something like that might be a little assumptive, but it's after, I know he's just kind of caught in his lizard brain a little bit. He just needs a little nudging.
Well, you close the sale. I mean, you gotta, like, at the end of the day, if this is so useful to hear because so many people do different kinds of business and they're so scared of just doing something like that, like just going in and saying, wait, can I be honest with you here? I mean, this is just you're just afraid. There's a lot going on in your life. Go get your license.
Dave, you know what the key is?
Yeah, what?
You never give direct eye contact when you give a directive. So I say
no,
it.
You don't.
You never, because direct eye contact is confrontational, right? You do that to a man in front of his wife, you're going to trigger him, right?
Oh, interesting. All right, that's an interesting.
If I just say it jokingly and I put my head down, as if I'm typing something, maybe just a second, no more than 2 second delay, he runs up and he grabs his license. Why? Because that's what your mom and dad used to tell you when you were growing up, when they told you to do something. They never looked you in the eye to tell you something, right? They just told you, Dave, go grab my coat out the closet. Didn't even look at you.
Yeah.
That's how I attribute it. But somebody, I got coaching on how to do it, and it always works. And I never use direct eye contact. I say it and I put my head down, and it's like they almost always. But you gotta know when they're comfortable enough, right? It's the nudge. You're not doing that on the. You're knowing that there's no obstacles there. They just need that little bump
So
to kind of
you don't look them in the eye and point at them and say, "You need to go get me your credit card."
after you tell them how irrational they're being, just put your head down and give a directive.
Yeah, right. Interesting. So you're kind of being calm, and then you tell them what to do, and then they'll just go do it.
Right.
Right.
Like
I like that.
85% of
It's
the
a good
time.
perspective, huh?
Like 85% of the time. And you'll notice if you do it and you put your head down, they're actually more uncomfortable about not getting up and doing what you told them to do. It's the craziest thing. It's uncomfortable when you first start doing it, but after you see how well it works, and you realize they're actually more uncomfortable than you are doing it.
Yeah. So if you get like, I don't know, let's say you run 10 appointments this week. How many of those appointments buy insurance from you, or they buy some sort of product from you?
I'd say about 40%.
Okay, so you're getting about,
most of the time I'm losing.
Most of the time you bat 40%. I mean, that's good, right? So you show up, and 4 out of every 10 people that you sit down with, they buy insurance, annuities, mortgage protection, whatever it is you're selling, right? And then you're earning obviously some real healthy, commissions and residuals from that, because insurance is a great long-term business. So talk to me a little bit more about sales and closing, because this is getting into a really interesting, useful conversation where you do this so often in person that anybody that really listens to you train on this, I mean, they're getting gold. So teach me how to close if I'm a brand new insurance person. I've never done sales before ever in my life, which might not be who you recruited anyway. But let's say I've never done sales before, and you're teaching me how to close. Like, how do I close sales?
So first thing, Dave, if I'm training you, I want to find out how it's happening for you, right? NLP, right? You always want to figure out what somebody else's reality is, right? I want to find out what your concerns are about having a conversation with someone, because some people are very friendly and extroverted, and they're very comfortable having a conversation. You have other people that have unconscious beliefs that prevent them from really connecting with people one-on-one. But I want to know what that is first, so I can help you get rid of it, right? But unless you know that it's there, a lot of times you'll get stopped, and you won't know why you get stopped. You won't know why you keep self-sabotaging yourself when it comes to closing a sale. Like, a lot of people don't realize, they think they want to go on a sale and close it, but they have unconscious beliefs around being good enough to tell somebody, give somebody advice on their financial well-being. They have unconscious beliefs around giving a directive, like, go grab your driver's license, go grab your bank account information. I'm going to need that for the automated draft. So the more present you can get to what these things are that would block you in being successful anyway. Now, once I have that, now we can work on that, right? Now we can create affirmations, visualizations around everything that's the opposite of those things that are keeping you from being successful, right? Or would potentially keep you from being successful if you've never sold before. Because this business is 90, and people say 90%, I believe 95% mindset. Are you comfortable going into a week, sitting on 10 appointments and having most of them not close? Right? So that, more than anything else, it's the mindset. Like, how often can you keep doing something without the results that you want showing up right away? I'll tell you, my first 90 days in this business was rough. Actually, my first year and a half in the business was rough. But for the first 90 days, I knew, just from doing a lot of training, development, and stuff like that, The only thing I wanted to do is focus on sitting on appointments. I really did not care about selling insurance. And that sounds kind of crazy, right? You need to survive, you need to make money. Why would you not care about selling insurance? Because if I knew if I sat on enough appointments, I was going to sell insurance anyway. But the thing I first need to get comfortable doing is having a conversation with somebody about insurance. And if I'm comfortable having the conversation, that's a lot of it, right? Because if I'm comfortable, you're comfortable. Well, if we're comfortable, now we can have a conversation. You can really allow me to help you. But if I'm not comfortable, you seem kind of weird and you're making me feel weird and I got to think about it, which is the biggest objection, by the way, you get in this business. Sounds
Right.
good. Yeah, I think I need it. But yeah, we're going to sleep on it and think about it. And
Right.
they never need, they're trying to look for reasons to think themselves out of it. People never think themselves into things. They're looking to think themselves out of it. So anytime
They
you get
never
past
they
this,
never think themselves into things. They only think themselves out of it.
that's the only thing they do. Right? Look, look, here's the thing, Dave. If you're in the bed with your wife and there's somebody that's trying to jump through your window, right, while you guys are sleeping, is there anything to think about?
No,
You
no.
don't need to think about, well, I may know him. Maybe he left his keys in the driveway and he's trying to see if, yeah, so it's nothing to think about. And the life insurance conversation is one of those things, like there's nothing to think about. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, well, how do you? So there is interesting, with something like life insurance in particular. There's like almost just unknown. There's like unconscious things that people do that you have to overcome. For example, one thing off the top of my head that I've been thinking about when you've been talking is just people. They know they're going to die, but they think they're going to live forever,
Yes.
right? So they don't think about wills and trusts and insurance and estate planning and things like this. So how do you put this into perspective to people when you're talking to them in a way that makes them want to take action when they might be 25 years old or 30 years old, right?
That's a great question. And it's at the beginning, we're creating the context. So I'm saying right now, we're on this side, we're young, we're healthy, we're making money, and we're trying to get to the other side where we're older. We're not making as much money. We're trying to retire and live off of assets, Social Security, and fixed income. Right. So I'm creating the context that we're going to look at this from the end. And then we're going to work our way back from what are the obstacles that are going to keep us from getting to the end. And I'm always asking for confirmation. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yeah.
There you go. Once you've agreed with me, now you give me permission to move in the next step. But a lot of that, if you give them the proper context to look at this, then a lot of the objections kind of remove themselves. They work themselves out. And that conversation of, I got more time, it never goes away. I swear, Dave, I've sat with people that are in their 70s and they still need to think about it. I'm like, bro, you got lucky up to this point. Like, what do you still think about? And I tell them that too. I'll just how I said that amygdala shows up, the lizard brain shows up. I'll explain to them what's happening in the moment, and I'm gonna say that feeling never goes away. Like, Dave, how long have you been thinking about getting insurance for yourself? It didn't just pop up today. You've been
Right.
thinking for a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, we're creatures of habit. Trust me, it never goes away. But don't worry about it. I got you. Do me a favor, go grab your driver's license and we'll see if we can get you qualified.
Right. Okay. So you just start filling out the application. This is kind of the same thing that I would do. I think one of the useful things about this so far, there's been a couple of useful things. This whole indirect, like looking down thing, super useful. Because I haven't done in-person sales for so long. I've just done webinars. Well, unless I'm selling in front of a room, I've done that, and it's a little different.
And
But
it's similar to what
also,
you used to do, Dave. Go get your credit card,
yeah,
right? You just
yeah,
say it.
yeah.
Go
Well,
get
look
your
at your
credit card.
credit card and bring it back, and then we're gonna go ahead and fill this out.
Right.
So you tell them what to do. You're indirect. You're direct but indirect. You're indirect with your body language, direct with authoritarian structure on what you tell them to do, and soft perhaps. And the other thing is that's really useful is that you lose most of the time, right? If you do 10 appointments, 60% of those appointments don't buy anything, right? And
Or they
how
don't
many
even
appointments
show
do
up.
you?
A lot of them
How
don't
many?
even show up.
How many
25%
don't
don't
show
even
up?
show up.
How many don't show up?
About 25%.
Right. And are you including those in the ones you lose, or are you? Is that like if
Exactly.
you?
Yeah,
Huh?
if I didn't sit with them, I lost.
Right. Okay. Okay. So if you schedule 10 appointments and then 25% don't show up, that's included a loss.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So out of the people that show up, then you're actually getting about half of them.
Right.
Okay, I got it. But even that, it's like just saying you lose most of the time. My goal is to show up, right? I think that people a lot of times lose track of the fact that you just need to meet with people on a consistent basis and do presentations and tell them what you're doing so they can hear it and ask for the close. How many appointments do you run a week, Will?
So my goal is 15. Since I've been in this leadership program, it's under 15. I could tell you that. But if I set 20 appointments, my goal is to sit on 15, and I'll close somewhere between 6 and 7. The biggest thing, to your point, though, about just showing up, a lot of people get emotional in this business because you do have to be with a lot of rejection and disappointment. But the way I train people to kind of stay out of their heads is know your numbers, right? I've learned really early. I track all my numbers. How many appointments did I set? How many did I sit on? How much premium did I write? And if you do that consistently long enough, you can start to see your number. So I learned that if I sat on, and at the time I wasn't on the commission level that I am now, but I learned that if I sat on 15 appointments, and I don't want to say the number here, I'm not supposed to talk about money and the insurance
You can
business.
you can keep private whatever's good for you. You know,
Okay,
like you share
but
what you want and not share what you don't want because everybody knows that you have to follow rules in your company. And
right. So if I knew if I sat on 15 appointments, I would make X amount of dollars, right? And I knew by tracking my numbers that failed to happen twice over the course of a year. It only didn't happen twice. So once you get your number of appointments that you need to sit on to get that number that you're looking for from an income standpoint, it takes all the emotion out of the business. You know, all you got to do is like somebody didn't show up for the appointment. Somebody told you no. There's no reason to feel anything about it. Just look at your number. Where are you at in terms of your numbers? Okay, well, I'm supposed to sit on 15 appointments. I've only sat on 4. All right, well, the good answer for that is you need to go set more appointments and sit on more.
right, okay. So just sitting down, getting in front of people though, if you get in front of people every single day, no matter what you're selling, you're gonna make money. So that means that you set about 4 appointments a day is about what you're running right now. Is that
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Like
give or
about
take.
4 a day. Yeah, four a day, 5 days a week, something like that. And then you're making obviously a
Yeah,
tremendous amount
and
of money.
I'm setting more than that, but that's what I'm sitting on. Yes.
Oh, so you're sitting down with about 4 people a day, and you're making obviously a tremendous amount of money without the need to recruit, and you're going through leadership training, right now. So, like, what are some like? Is there really anything secret to it other than just showing up, having good rapport skills, asking for the sale? Like, what are some other secrets? You know?
Man, that's a good question. And it's like it's hard to see a picture when you're in the frame, right? I don't, it's hard for me to explain to you everything that I might have learned. If you ask me a specific question, I could probably tell you. But I'll tell you, and I would tell anybody this that's considering getting into the business. If you spend enough time with it, it'll share all the secrets with you, right? Just people when they're failing, they quit, so they never get the secrets that are in the business. Like everybody that got good, if it was easy enough just for you to tell somebody what to do, then everybody would come into this business and make a ton of money, right? But it's not like if you know Jeff Olson. You
Okay.
familiar with Jeff Olson?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he talks about learn knowledge, activity knowledge. Learn
Right.
knowledge, activity knowledge, right?
Good
You
old power
watch,
training.
say it again.
Yeah, his good old power training and prepaid legal.
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
classic. It's classic. if you watch your YouTube videos, right, get trained, take that out into the field, it's just a natural progression before like you know all the secrets. It's not a complicated business. It's really just understanding more about who you are in different situations.
Right. So learning and doing, learning and doing, learning and doing, learning and doing. The biggest thing then in I think for people is if you're in a business, you got to meet with people every single day. And if you don't, you're not going to make money.
Right. That's
That's
it.
basic, sales one. And you're going to learn if you keep doing it as long as you're around the right people. Like if somebody is doing 10 appointments a week in anything and they're not making money, they're either in the wrong thing or they just have the worst training ever because it's almost impossible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's really about getting rid of that reactive mind, right? That part of us that says we're not enough, the part that doesn't like any kind of resistance, the part that doesn't like rejection. Once you can get rid of that, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, you just talk to enough people. Like I tell people, like, would you be willing to talk to 1,000 people to get $100? Right? Would you be willing to ask 1,000 people for $1 a piece to get 100? If the answer is yes, well, cool, you'll get your $100, but the secret is you probably get 2,500.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people are going to give you more than $1.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, are you going to talk to 1,000 people though? That's the question.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. So let's talk about some other interesting stuff here. Before we got on this, we were having like a private conversation, right? And we were talking. You've been in financial services like for your whole, adult life, and obviously, you and I are both kind of conspiracy type people, right? Yeah. So like, what's going on in the world right now? Like, where do you see the world financial system going right now in the next like 10 years?
Oh man, Dave, you must want to get your account shut down, man.
It's fine. I mean, we could disclaim it or something like that. But, whatever.
No, I think, and I try to be responsible about what I say because, different people take things different ways, right? And I just think it's really naive to think that we can grow up in a world where history doesn't take place, right? During our lifetime, I think it's really naive to think that you could never experience history on a once in a lifetime, type of event. And that's where I feel like we are. If you look at the history of the country, the issues we've had with debt, the meeting every year about increasing the debt ceiling, and how long can that go on, right? And how long does the world allow for us, to sit back? How long does the rest of the world sit back and say, okay, yeah, just keep letting them print money, just keep letting them print? At some point, everybody's tolerance runs out because the money's not worth anything anymore. Like, what are we talking about here? It's nothing, right? So at some point you have to have a change that brings everything back to reality, so to speak, if there's a such thing. And
I ran some calculations on when the debt, and this is the problem with running calculations like this is that there's all sorts of stuff that could go wrong with them. Like, for example, we could change, right? Which we probably won't. But like I took from like 1950 to now, and I said, how many years does it take the debt on average to double? Which is 8 years. Okay. And then I took, so from 1950 to now, how long does it take for the IRS revenue to double? And that's doubling from either increased taxation, which really you can't increase taxation past a certain amount, or just more GDP. So there's more revenue, so there's more taxes, right? And that happens every 15 years. So every 15 years, the revenue of the IRS is doubling, but every 8 years, the debt is doubling.
So it's growing as fast as possible.
Yeah. So I said, I basically was like, at what point is the debt going to be so massive if that continues exactly like it's continued, where we can't even make the interest payments with the entire revenue of the IRS.
Wow.
If just that, and the answer is depending on a couple of factors between 2040 and 2050. So, in other words, if we just continue on the same path between 2040 and 2050 latest, the entire revenue of the IRS will not even be able to make debt payments. We're not including like paying for the military, paying for Medicare, paying for all the benefit programs we have, border programs, a million other programs, federal government. There'll be no money, none, and that's if we even lasted that long. So I mean, I think that puts like a definitive stopping point. But like, so we were talking earlier about the globalization plan of this whole by 2030, we're gonna own nothing and be happy about it, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. What's this evil plan or this conspiratorial plan, whether or not it's evil to have us own nothing? Where's that coming from?
Well, I mean, if you look at the World Economic Forum, it's pretty transparent, right? There's no secrets. It's just they don't talk about it on the news every evening, so most people don't know about it. But if you take a look at their website, everything is pretty much laid out. If you can kind of read between the lines, even down to like electric cars, like this whole big push to get everything electric, right? At that point, everything's controlled. Like everything's on your phone. You got to figure there's a small percentage of people that are really controlling everything that's going on, right? It's a lot more of us than it is of them. So, and then too, along with that, like Dave, think about how hard it is to control a whole auditorium of people, right? To get them to line up and do everything you want them to do and coordinate. Now think about like how hard it must be to control a small town. Now think about a city. Now think about a state. Like everything is based on control. And at the core of control is money, right? That's how
Yes.
everything works off of money. So if the money is bad, you need a new source of control. And I think that's the reason why you're seeing, everything's connected to you. Pretty soon your car, if you don't fall in line, your car could be shut off. And I think
they
we're kind
already
of
do that in China. They have a social credit system that they'll just shut you off. You can't even get on trains or anything if they shut
right,
you off.
right.
It's not connected into your like hand or whatever, but So you were asking like communism, like how likely do you think it'll be that we're going to see some sort of collapse and reorganization into some sort of communist system? My brother sent me something where he basically said that we were talking about. My brother is really into economics. He graduated with international business. He's a hypnotist, but he has an international business background, and he trades every day. So he makes as much money trading as he usually does from his hypnosis practice. But he said that he thinks the events have already happened that are going to unwind the U.S. currency, and that that we're going to really have a competitor from China. And he sent me this image. You can't really see it. It's the world GDP. Do you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So you have the United States, and China has been creeping up on us.
Wow.
Where the U.S. dollar is going to actually have like a real competitor. So how likely do you think that we're going to see like a shift, a world power shift from like America into some sort of like communist empire?
I mean, the shift is already right. The dollar has been pretty much removed as the global currency, right? So that has to say something. Um, what it looks like, who knows? But like the United States, there's never been, and you know a lot more about history than I do, but there's never been anywhere like this, and at least that we know in the history of the world, right? Most places are run like a China or a Russia, where it's more of a dictatorship. here, this has been the longest standing democracy that I know of. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. So in the span of things, 300-400 years isn't really a long time. When you take a look at China, who can trace their history back, thousands of years, Ming and all these great empires, this has been around 300-400 years. Isn't it kind of naive to say that this could never transition into something else where, everything we've kind of got spoiled by is no longer the case?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've already transitioned, in the last, very recently out of the English Empire, for example, and actually, it's interesting with the United States because, and I'm not the best historian there is. I'm reading a lot about history right now, but there's the founding fathers actually did not like democracy, so they one of them, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, who said, "God forbid that this should ever turn into a democracy." So they were trying to make essentially a new kind of place where you had Rome that was essentially like a monarchical republic. It was an empire that ran on a rule of law, and then you had democracies, but pure democracies, they always almost immediately collapse. They barely last any time at all. And democracies essentially turn into mob rule. So once you have the people voting for everything, then the public starts controlling the system, and the general public, never knows how to solve the problems. So it essentially turns into like, who can flip over the most cars, they get what they want. So yeah, I think this is a real risk, and I also think that this is one of the reasons why people, if they have the ability, should try to make as much money as they possibly can right now.
You know what? I see. Even more important to that is the ability to create money, right? The ability to create money. One of the reasons I joined this program I was telling you about that I was in, is they gave the promise that once you finish this program, we could drop you off on the other side of the world in a small town. Within a short period of time, you'd have everything you need, right? And it was basically through your ability to communicate with people that you'd be able to do that, right?
Right.
Because you figure, what's money? Money is just, can you create value for someone else?
Right.
Well, if you have nothing, one of the most powerful things that you can do to create value from nothing is experience someone in such a way that they've never been experienced before, right? If you can make somebody feel good, if you can acknowledge, if you can listen, if you can pay attention to them, that's value in itself. You see what I'm saying? Like if you look at a lot of what people, like, money is necessary, we need it. But if you look at what a lot of us spend money on, it's really because we think we'll get more love if we have more of it, right?
Yeah,
all human beings have one core desire: to be acknowledged, appreciated, and heard, indiscriminate of our performance and how we show up in the world. And when you can have people really get who they are, not only can that be money in itself, right? People are willing to contribute to you, and you could do that and create a team around you. That's when you can create money from nothing. So yeah, but make as much money as you can. I'm with you, but also having the ability to create money from nothing, I think, is equally, if not more, powerful, right? Because insurance is just a concept. It's just an idea, right? It's not a logical sale. It's totally emotional, right? But they have to feel a certain way about me, and I have to have them feel a certain way about themselves before they can agree to walk down that road with me.
Right. So on this, I think that, we're winding to a point where I think that we can close this off here, is that the future, I think one of the most necessary skills that any person is going to need to have is leadership and community building.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons is because we really don't know where the economy is going, or where the world system is going to go. We really have no idea. Right. Like, it could go to communism, and that could be overflipped by some sort of technological revolution from artificial intelligence. Past the point of artificial general intelligence, we have no idea what's going to happen. But that could just turn into communism too. I mean, God forbid that we should get like an super intelligent machine that wants communism. That could very well happen, particularly if it's developed by China. But
have you ever studied the Anunnakis at all, or no?
The what?
Have you ever heard of Anunnakis?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You never heard of that? Oh man, you gotta Google it. We won't go into it now because it's really wild. But yeah, take a look at it and we gotta talk. I'm curious to see what you think about it.
Yeah, all right. How do you spell it?
Annuki.
Oh, the Anakites. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the theories is, you put intelligence in charge, artificial intelligence, to have that run everything, just like the Matrix, just like the movie. If you've ever looked into the movie The Matrix, did you know that Terminator was the first part of the Matrix? It's the same writer.
Really? I did not know that. No.
Yeah. So anyway, if you look at the Matrix, that's essentially what was happening, right? The machines were running everything. That lady though that wrote she's what they refer to as a seer. So she's psychic, and she claims, I don't know if that's the truth, but she claims to have been able to see into the future to create that idea around the Matrix. But if you look at the movie The Matrix, it's like they didn't even have social media when that came out. Like Neo remember the social media, this came out in 1990. There was no Facebook. There was no MySpace, wasn't even around yet.
Oh, that was a crazy revolutionary idea then, but now it's a lot more believable,
Right.
I was just watching. I was just watching Elon Musk talk about this. It was actually a one world government meeting that's done over in Dubai, right? So they have like people from all these nations, and I think they call it like the one world government meeting. I mean, it's not. They're not trying to hide it. You know what I mean? Right. This is not like a little conspiratorial group. It's like called like the one world government meeting. Hold on a second. Let me see if I have it up on the screen still. Yeah,
this is in a movie.
The World Government Summit is what it's called, right?
This is in a movie.
No. This is a meeting that happens over in Dubai every year, right? So this is the 17th one, and this was actually 6 years ago. This one that I'm watching, so they do this every single year. And
I know about the one in, what is it, Davos?
Yeah, no, this is a very public meeting. This isn't like a top secret. This isn't like we're going to have this secret conspiracy to have a one world government. This is like called the One World Government, the World Government Summit, right? So, anyways, they're interviewing Elon Musk, and he's talking about simulation theory, right? Where he says that, okay, so if you look at the way that video games were in like 1980, it was like two dots bouncing across the screen with a line. You had like a ping pong table, and it's like one line goes like this and the other line goes like this, and there's like a dot, and it looks like this as it moves across the screen, right? Because it's physically changing the pixels, right? And then that was like a really fun game, right? And right now you have photorealistic, first person shooters. Now we're getting into metaverse technology where you have three-dimensional, holographic reality that's at least tricking the eyes and the ears and vibrating and things like this. But he said, even with a very minute rate of progress on that, 0.01% per year, and eventually you reach a point where video games become indistinguishable from reality, right? And then he asked a question. He says, well, how do we know that didn't already happen?
How about that?
Yeah. How do we know that didn't already happen? And we're not in one now, right?
That's heavy.
Yeah. That's simulation theory that says essentially that there's evidence that we live in simulation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What Elon Musk say, like 99.9% chance that that's the case.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but I kind of think something like that's going on. But it's interesting. So the technological thing might shift, and then we might be controlled by technology. But no matter what, the point of this whole thing was, no matter what is in the future that we don't understand, one thing that we need is sales skills, leadership skills, and each other.
Absolutely. Communication skills. Each other. Yeah.
Yeah. We might need to, have other people around that we like, in our new disoriented world that we live in a few years from now, right?
Interesting
So,
times.
yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming out. Any words of wisdom or advice that you have for young, aspiring entrepreneurs who are trying to get started in the world?
Yeah, man, just do it. Don't worry about what could go wrong. Think only about what could go right. And biggest thing more than anything else is like action, more action, and more action, and more action.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming out, everybody. Please be sure to, thank you, Shanika, for hanging out here. Be sure to follow Will Lane on Facebook. I don't really know that he's on Facebook that much, but
Not that much.
watch what he's doing, and feel free to reach out to him. And Will, thanks for coming out, brother.